6 p.m. in Batela, that is in the Day Division, West Region of Cameroon. Same time right here in Akwadwala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Inhabitants of Bamenda, chief town of the Northwest region, gripped with fear as at least 4 persons got injured, and that is in Kwen, Bamenda 3 subdivision, following the detonation of an explosive device. And over to Boya, which is a chief town of the Southwest region of Cameroon, heavy gunshots were heard in that part of the country. According to report, this was in order to scare away the population from taking part in the projection of President Paul Biya's film at the Molikoli Sports Stadium today. That is our non-major story tonight. Stay with us for details and more. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe television for presentation. I am Immaculate Fogwe. We begin with news in the conflict Southwest region. Though calm has returned to Bosumbu in neighborhood in Limbe after it was rumored that separatist fighters were spotted roaming the area yesterday, inhabitants say they are still very scared, reason why most of them had to stay indoors. Moments after the news of the presence of separatists spread like wildfire around the area, security forces were sent on the site to take stock of the situation on the ground. As Southwest Chief Correspondent Davison Maimon, the report coming up next, say the people of Bosumbu are yet to resume activities normally. His report.
An injured woman being rushed in an ambulance to the Bamenda Regional Hospital. She is among 4 persons injured Thursday morning by a detonated improvised explosive device at the Nkwen Market in Bamenda 3. Perpetrators are believed to be separatist fighters who are bent on enforcing a 2-week lockdown imposed to frustrate school resumption in the Northwest and Southwest regions since September 9. Victims of the explosion who have been hospitalized, according to witnesses, include traders and buyers. Panic-stricken, almost everyone in the market ran for their lives. Minutes later, gunshots as the fighters targeted state forces who appeared on the explosion scene. Panic wave spread across the city of Bamenda. The building Nkwen Market area turns to a graveyard. Action of the separatist fighters could be interpreted to compelling the population to respect the imposed lockdown by staying indoors and to freeze transportation and business activities. In the Southwest region, precisely in Boya, residents confirmed tension gripped the town with thunderous gunshots heard in Moya. This forced the local population to stay indoors. No casualty was reported. Movements of persons was timid. The attack Thursday amidst the lockdown, according to informations aimed at frustrating the projection of President Paul Biya's film at the Moliko Omnisport Stadium. We learned mostly civil servants attended the event.
That was rather innocent as a reporting on the situation in Bamenda, which is the chief town of the Northwest region, and in Boya, where the projection of President Paul Biya's film was supposed to take place at the Molikoli Sports Stadium. Now we take you to Bosumbu village, that is in Limbe, where our reporter Davison Maimo says it was rumored that separatist fighters were spotted roaming the area yesterday. Inhabitants say they are still scared, reason why most of them had to stay back indoors. His report.
Like wildfire, the rumor of Anglophone separatist fighters roaming the Bosumbu neighborhood of Limbe on Wednesday, the 18th of September 2024, immediately spread, leaving the inhabitants of the neighborhood in total pandemonium.
The people just scatter the wrong, the wrong, so the thing just, I don't know how we know all of it.
The Rapid Intervention Unit of the police, with the French acronym SC, swiftly responded by blocking the neighborhood entrance and taking some individuals in for questioning. Few minutes later, the Rapid Response Unit of the police was reinforced by Cameroon Military's Special Unit, the Rapid Intervention Battalion with the French acronym the B.
Tous les gens ont fui à la maison. Apparemment, les dires sont entrés ici avec les policiers et nous ont questionné par rapport à ce qui s'est passé.
Armed to the teeth, with military gears ready to engage, The bee combed the entire quarter in search of the separatist fighters. The show of force left residents stricken panic and fearful, causing them to barricade themselves indoors. By 7 p.m., all businesses were closed, and no civilian could be spotted outside, except for the defense and security element patrolling the area. Sources say the message of separatist fighters roaming the area was amplified through a WhatsApp group, leading to some persons to be under interrogation, as security elements are investigating to have the source of the rumor. However, activities in the Busumbu neighborhood are in low extreme, as some business places are still locked and the people indoors for fear of the unknown. Meantime, activities in the seaside resort city of Limbe remain stable, with very high security dispensation put in place to puncture and prevent any potential threat.
Limbe-based correspondent Davison Maimo reporting there. Now we take this communique from the senior divisional officer for Mezam, where he says with grief informs the public opinion that on Thursday, September 19, 2024, around 11 a.m., a group of armed terrorists who had taken refuge around the Quen Market in Bamenda 3 subdivision detonated an improvised explosive device, killing one person, that is Miss Chung Juliet, a 30-year-old lady, and wounding 6 other civilians, amongst whom was an 11-month-old baby. The victims, all females, were shopping at the said market. In these painful circumstances, the senior divisional officer for Mezam, on behalf of the government, expresses his heartfelt sympathy to the bereaved families, while extending his compassion as well as wishes to swift recovery to the wounded, whose medical bills are all being footed as usual by the government, according to the senior divisional officer. While vehemently he condemns the barbaric act as an unarmed civilians, the administrative authority calls on the population to remain calm as the defense and security forces are on the ground to track down and hand the authors of this heinous act to the competent judicial authorities. Finally, the senior divisional officer once more urges the population to actively collaborate with the administrative authorities and the defense and security forces in order to fish out those behind such lawless and heartless criminals who constitute a major threat to social peace and tranquility in the division. Away from that, we now take you to the West region, now precisely to Bacham subdivision of the Bambutus division, where 2 alleged murderers were caught by the elements of the Bacham Gendarmerie Brigade. They are being accused to have killed Maurice Nucha last week, Monday, in his room, and in the Littoral region, a suspected thief was burnt by the population. It is alleged that the individuals caught stealing. Details with our reporter, Sergi Chakutu.
These are the 2 suspected murderers of Maurice Nucha. He was killed in his house last week in Bame Boro, a neighborhood in Bacham subdivision, Bambutus division, West region of Cameroon. We could easily enter his house because his doors were not well locked. Once in, we met the man on the bed, so I gave him a punch on his face and he directly fell on the ground. I then immediately told my mate to go in the other room and search what we came here for. If we don't see it, we leave. On our departure from the house, the man could not wake up anymore. After investigations, both suspects got arrested by the elements of the Bacham Gendarmerie Brigade. They will have to appear before a competent judge to answer for their crime. And in Guabido, Littoral region of Cameroon, a suspected thief was burned to death in the early hours of Thursday. According to an eyewitness, the alleged bandit stole materials in a victim's home in another neighborhood. He came to our quarter and physically bullied a man I know. He entered and showed a knife, stole some important objects and left. So me being on my bike, I heard someone shouting. I carried him on my bike, then we went trying to follow the thief. Once we arrived here, we saw the alleged thief being beaten by the population of another neighborhood. While investigations are ongoing, the corpse of the alleged bandit has been kept in a mortuary pending burial. It should be noted that according to the law, mob justice is punishable in Cameroon.
We'll leave Bacham in the West region to the Far North region, where the stability of this region in particular and the state of Cameroon in general is increasingly being threatened by the proliferation of drug trafficking and the growing consumption of drugs in the region. Security officials say that the drug dealers in the region supply drugs to terrorist groups like Boko Haram. Gendarmerie officials were speaking while presenting over 40 bags of intercepted cannabis in Marwa. We have details with Fomi Armstrong-Sander.
The over 40 bags of cannabis loaded in 3 gendarmerie pickups were intercepted in the Doualare neighborhood of Marwa 2 subdivision of the Diamari division in the Far North region of Cameroon.
We have harvested about 43 bags of drugs.
The drugs value has been estimated at 65 million francs CFA. This same operation also led to the arrest of 2 suspected traffickers, notably the gang leader, 30-year-old Madame Fatoume, and his accomplice, identified as Liman Zakaria. They are currently being detained at the Marwa Gendarmerie Company Brigade. In a similar operation, gendarmerie officials laid hands on 3 suspected drug traffickers in the town of Motorwa in the Mayokani division, some 50 kilometers away from the city of Marwa, still of the Far North region.
In Motorwa, where we have arrested 3 people who were cultivating drug in their compound.
Gendarmerie officials say that the dealers in Motorwa supply cannabis and other hard drugs to terrorist groups like Boko Haram in the Logon and the Shari division, Mayosava division and other parts of the Far North region.
For that operation, I congratulate my gendarme for the good job and also tell to the population that we are here to secure them. They have to continue to trust us, give us information, good information on time, so that we can send gendarmes on the field to go and track all those criminals.
The growing trafficking and consumption of hard drugs in the Far North region stands as a major threat to the stability of the region and the state of Cameroon, considering the presence of the terrorist group Boko Haram in the region.
Now we talk something else. The president of the Association of Business People in Cameroon, known in French as GICAM, has expressed worries over the huge number of Cameroonians traveling to Canada recently. Celestin Tawamba, during the mid-term report, says that exodus is a huge blow to the economy of the country. The GICAM president also noted some obstacles to favorable business climate in Cameroon, such as poor electricity supply and bad state of roads in our country. Annabella is a lady on that story.
The mass exodus of Cameroonians to Canada is a major preoccupation to the Cartel of Business Persons in Cameroon, GICAM. During the midterm annual report of the body, GICAM President Celestin Tawamba worries that just from January to September 2024, over 6,000 Cameroonians have moved to Canada. According to him, this brain drain of productive Cameroonians is a huge loss to the country's economic welfare. GICAM says it has written to the Minister of External Relations so they could both brainstorm on ways of dissuading Cameroonians from moving out of the country and maybe bring to an end this disturbing phenomenon. The migration of Cameroonians to Canada can be explained by the fact that 10 million Cameroonians now live below the poverty line stipulated by the World Bank. Also, working in this present age of digitalization is challenging to most enterprises in Cameroon. According to GICAM, this is as a result of unstable internet connection and poor network provided by telephone companies in Cameroon. In the domain of water and energy, the heads of enterprises in Cameroon noted that no company can thrive in an environment with epileptic power supply. Cameroon is still to get the 3,000 megawatts of electricity promised last year with the completion of the Nashtiga and Lompanga electricity project. Road infrastructure is also a cause for concern to GICAM. Celestin Tawamba says major highways such as the National Road number 3 and number 5 are all in deplorable state. Consequently, increase in prices of goods of basic necessities in the market. On fiscality, the idea of digitalizing tax payments at the port has gone a long way at encouraging doing business in Cameroon. GECAM as well mentions that the difficulties of acquiring a land title in Cameroon has been a great worry to business people. Having a land title in Cameroon can be costly, time-consuming, and with no security. This midterm report by GECAM is to evaluate the economic stakes and challenges of the country. Besides, it is aimed at ensuring that public authorities are versed with the unfavorable business climate in Cameroon so they could together make the environment friendly for doing business.
Staff Lady Annabella reporting there. Dealers in the cocoa and coffee sector of the country have insensitized on the new laws governing the exportation of cocoa beans. According to the General Manager of the National Cocoa and Coffee Board, Michael Doping, the cocoa beans that is left Cameroon illegally was small relatively to the statistics gotten from their database. The situation has been attributed to the illegal exportation of cocoa in the country. Smart Jikan Gabriel tells us more.
Before now, the export of cocoa beans from Cameroon was mostly done on water and with foreign nations. It gave limited profits to the government as well as the exporters. In order to liberalize the cocoa and coffee sector of the country, Cameroon's government has signed a new law aimed at opening the sale of cocoa and coffee to other African nations, amongst them Nigeria. It is for this reason that the regulatory board of the cocoa and coffee sector met in Boya to explain the requirements of the new law. The main condition is for all taxes to be paid by the exporters and to return the hard currency expected from the exports. My mission here is to plead with everyone to apply to the new law, which will be a win-win one for all. The law states that farmers can sell their cocoa beans by auction, which implies the highest bidder takes it all. This sensitization workshop comes at a time when the price of cocoa beans has witnessed a slight increase, with a kilo sold at 4,200 francs CFA. But the cocoa farmers still decry the difficulties they face when doing business within Cameroon. Our main problem in Manu is we want that, as the president has given us the green light to sell our cocoa beans in Nigeria, we want them to allow us to do the business freely without any hitches. After paying taxes, they shouldn't block us with laws we don't understand. For example, selling cocoa in Douala, one must have documents from different cocoa companies, but in Nigeria they say we must pay all declarations from where the cocoa beans was loaded. The sensitization workshop continues in other regions of the country.
Smart Jikan Gabriel ending this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Tonight on Talking Point, I'll be having Yusufa Dauda. He is a flood victim currently living in Yagwa. Yagwa is one of those areas hit by devastating floods in the Maridanai division, the far north region of Cameroon. Good evening. It is a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Hello, madam. Welcome to Yagwa, the chief town of Maridanai division.
Yusufa, can you describe the current situation on the ground in the far north region for the devastating floods, and how have you and other inhabitants been coping since this incident?
As in 2022, the far north region, more precisely the Maridanai division, is affected by floods. As we said it, these floods have been caused by several rainfall. You know, the temperature, as we said it, the temperature in the Maridanai division shows that things will be deeply so. They are affected by heavy floods. Many quarters, like as we said it, Danaire, Mamina, Kaskao, Tikoro, and Jibetsu are affected by floods. These floods is done due to heavy rainfall. So the situation is very alarming. Many families are homeless. Many children are still staying at home. They are not going to school despite to that heavy flood in the Mayo-Danai division. So the government, as we said it, and many other NGOs are taking measures to assure that those families are well seated and those children are going to school. So this is the first situation that we can see in the Mayo-Danai division.
Given that several houses were flooded, let's look at the lodging and the feeding. Some of these arrangements have been managed. How has it been managed, particularly for those living in settlement sites? And what challenges are flood victims currently facing at the moment?
Families are found in an overcrowded camp. The only camp that have been situated by the senior divisional officer and the divisional officer of Yagua is overcrowded. Many families, as we said, we have children as well as many families are in difficult situations. So they are overcrowded. As we said, we have limited food. The NGOs are called up to assist those families because very soon after this flooding, we might encounter sickness, illness, many diseases might introduce themselves. So we are calling on NGOs, as we said, the government to have a role to play in this association to fight against this flooding. We are invited those people to come and assist the families because families there are suffering. You know, after a flooding period like this one, we have other diseases that might introduce themselves to make the people suffer once more after the flooding.
Yusufa, we would like to know from you, what is the psychological impact on children who have not been able to attend school for several days, and how are their educational needs being addressed at the moment?
Psychological impact on children is that many children, as you said, during the beginning of this flooding, are not having access to their different schools. This is because of the interruption of the only and unique bridge of Yagua. The bridge that fell the 12th of September 2024 made children to abandon their schools and stay home. But to come to solve this situation, the divisional delegates of secondary school and the divisional delegates of basic schools in Yagua have decided to put in place an announcement to permit those children to go to the nearest school to participate and have access to school. So the impact is very negative during the beginning, but despite with time that is coming, they have decided to put in place a measure to make those children to go to school. So for the young children, as we said, we have other young children that are with their family at the camp chosen by the government. They are staying there, but they need to be protected very well so that they should avoid sickness after this flooding. So the measures need to be put on those children because they are the ones, as we said, to come and replace in future. They need to be protected. We need to call on NGOs on the government also to protect those children.
Yusufa, from your explanations, it's quite clear that the population is going through a lot, especially during this moment when they have lost a lot of their cattle, their houses, a lot of their equipment from their houses. Now, what are some of the things you people need at this moment?
The immediate assistance we need is, as we said when you are in a flooding situation, when the flood makes you to leave your home and go to where you are not used to, you need food, as we said Without food, we cannot survive. We also need food supply. As we said after food supply, we need to rebuild also the materials that were damaged by this flooding. Many families have lost their, as we said their property, their homes and their ships. So they need to rebuild, they need to be assisted by any possible means to come back and regain their home. So as we said, the situation is very calm for the moment. Water is coming out, water is already leaving, but assistance needs to be made to those families to regain back their home.
What's your take on the outing of the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, who suggested that inhabitants contributed to the flooding by building their houses in flood-prone areas?
The minister's statement could be true and negative at the same time. Talking of the truth, in 2022, as we said the flood have interrupted many activities in Yagua and in the Mayo-Danai division in general. In Yagua, more precisely, many families have been given places to leave those areas where the flooding have been disturbing. As we said, for example, the quarter like Danaire, they have been given another area very far from the flooding area to expect them in future not to avoid those problems. So the population is very, as we said, they cannot leave their areas to regain where they were given. As on the negative side, the government also need to take measures. For example, they need to start constructing to those families. Giving someone money is not also an aid. If you give somebody money to go and look for a place, it will be difficult to use that money. But if the government could go and start constructing and then ask them to continue where they have started, they may regain those places. So the population as well as the government need to contribute to avoid flooding in future. Other quarters too need to be very careful, because when you are staying in a flooding camp, you need to be vigilant. One day water might come and regain its place. So this is the situation that is happening rightly in Yagua. This flooding, as we said, historians told us that there have been 40 years far back, the water have been laden here. So this is the situation that, as you said, water have come and regained its place. So they need to have a possible solution and leave the area for future without any problem.
Inhabitants of Yagua affected by this flood, how are local authorities and humanitarian organizations coordinating relief efforts, and what role are community leaders playing at the moment?
Of reliefs and efforts is done by many NGOs. For example, we have the Cameroon Red Cross, who is alongside those damaged by flood since the beginning. As we said, since the month of June, the population is seeing the thing coming. So as we said, the NGOs are coming, many associations are coming, as well as local elites who recently gave gifts to those affected by flood. So this is also their contribution. They need to continue their efforts for them to supply those families affected by flooding. On the part of the administration, the council, as well as the senior division officer and the division officer for Mayadana and Yagua respectively, are under the control. Every day they are going to that camp to verify whether those people are well. As said yesterday, the senior division officer went and visited the camp and see every place is very calm. So this is one of the best contributions to fight against this flooding. So we are invited all the volunteers. It's not only the government, nor the NGOs, but other associations, other volunteer associations to join us and contribute to fight against this flooding in Yagua.
It should be noted that more than 10 people have died as a result of this flood and hundreds of persons displaced, with a lot of cattle equally killed in the course of this incident. They all need our help. We need to come to their aid. And that's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Stay in the company of more interesting programs on Equinoxe Television. In some few minutes, you'll be having Serge Alain Otu with the program Equinoxe. Bye-bye for now. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing.